The tried and true tradition of saying the Pledge of Allegiance in public schools is back in the legal crosshairs. Good evening, I'm Dave Mattson.
And I'm Shannon Heggie. An atheist family from Acton, Massachusetts wants the under God language removed from the pledge, saying it discriminates against their religious beliefs.
ABC 40's Scott Cohen joins us now with more on the legal and historical significance of saying the Pledge of Allegiance in public schools. Scott?
Well, Dave and Shannon, the Pledge of Allegiance was first published in 1892, a simple 22-word slogan written by Francis Bellamy, who was a prominent socialist of his time with family ties to Western Massachusetts. In the 1900s, or check that, the 1950s, the word under God was included into the pledge, and since then the Pledge of Allegiance has become a lightning rod of religion and patriotism on every side of the political aisle.
We read into the pledge what we want. For most Americans, the Pledge of Allegiance is something that they lip sync. It's something that they just go through the motions. It doesn't mean that much to them.
When Francis Bellamy penned the Pledge of Allegiance, it wasn't about patriotism and religion. It was about selling American flags. A widely publicized magazine entitled The Youth Companion was promoting the sale of American flags in schools across the country. Today, there's an American flag in every schoolroom, and the Pledge of Allegiance is how we still begin every school day.
The original pledge was designed by someone who was thinking about an America that was changing, an America that was being almost overwhelmed by a wave of immigrants. And those who pushed for the Pledge of Allegiance were trying to find something simple, almost like a slogan that could help unify, that could help bring Americans together into some simple basic ideas.
Francis Bellamy's basic ideals were socialist ideals. Bellamy believed in the distribution of wealth and the rights of working people. But nowhere were the words under God mentioned in his pledge. That didn't come until the 1950s, when the famous McCarthy here directed President Eisenhower to include a religious aspect to the pledge. Over the years, there have been many challenges to the Pledge of Allegiance. William Newman, director of the Western Massachusetts ACLU, thinks the latest challenge to the pledge on religious grounds will follow previous appeals court rulings.
I think it's apt to fail, because the First Circuit said as recently as 2010 that, in fact, the pledge was not unconstitutional with the words under God in it. The court went on at some length to say, well, the words under God have some significance. They obviously have religious meaning, but that's not primarily the thrust of the pledge. It's only 2 words within the 30-plus words in the pledge. It's not in a religious context. It's said in a secular setting, and so it's not really establishing a religion or a religious belief.
And now for the Western Massachusetts connection to the Pledge of Allegiance. You see, Francis Bellamy, the author of the pledge, was the cousin of Chicopee native Edward Bellamy. Edward Bellamy was also a well-known socialist author of the day. Bellamy Middle School in Chicopee is named after Edward Bellamy. And today, in Mr. Parmalee's social studies class, an American flag hangs in the corner, and the day begins just like it always has, with the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, interesting for sure. Now, Massachusetts law requires teachers to lead students in the daily Pledge of Allegiance, but it also says that for political or religious reasons or for whatever you don't have to participate if you don't want to.